My dad loved laughter. My two rocks, Weesey and Punky, love laughter. Punky even calls, whose house is the laughing place?
That was the mountain house.
That was the mountain house.
Yeah.
And laughter's about the most important thing in the world. Laughter and family. So everybody just take a minute and look around and look at how blessed we are. What a family we have. And I'm telling you what, you want to talk about DNA. We share it, and it's as good as it gets. This man and these two ladies right here are as good as it gets.
Are we responsible?
See, and they know how to make us laugh every time. So what we're going to do today is a short celebration here, and then we're going to go over to Sullivan's, and I stopped by, and it's set up just beautifully. Izzy put together a really neat video that has everybody and all the pictures of through the years and the joy. And anybody who wants a copy of it, I know Izzy would love to burn everybody.
She
and
just
I hope
volunteered.
we'll all get introduced over there and see each other again. And so, thank you to each of you for coming today to celebrate my dad's 100 years of life. Today is a love-filled event meant to celebrate, remember, and honor him. I hope we can replace grief with joy and sorrow with comfort. In the words of Dr. Seuss, don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. So I'm going to have Maddie say a few words about her great-grandpa.
Sorry, y'all. I didn't need to wipe up a little bit to come bad.
You got to stand up here and talk real loud. That's the teacher in me.
Hello, my name is Mattison Olivia Odell. I am one of Great-Grandpa Flash's granddaughters. Some of the most special memories we had was going to the Armstrong School, where I got to find out more about him, and I got to learn about his history there and how he built it for like dyslexic kids like my brother, because it helps others in need with it. I love how I got to know how generous he was to build it, and it just makes me feel really warm inside. I feel so grateful to know his personality as well. I love how I got to meet his know his favorite cereal, which is Cheerios, and his favorite sport, which is baseball and golf. And so I feel so blessed to be able to know my great-grandfather.
Thank you, Maddie.
Oh, man.
Yes. Okay. And this is my cousin, Dee Dee Steele. She drove all the way down from Boston to be at both ceremonies, and my mom and dad had a tremendous impact on her life, so
Yes.
she's going to share a few words.
Yeah, thank you. This is for our family, the Steele family. Our family is forever grateful to Uncle Wilbur for all he did for us over the years. These are my siblings. Patty, Bim, Rachel, and I have wonderful memories of our many trips to Vail with Aunt Pat, Uncle Wilbur, Patty, and Billy. They were full of fun and laughter. Our mothers took a run or two, then called it a day to have some sister time. The rest of us experienced and can visualize today Flash's long and cautious traverses across all the slopes of Vail. He was teased endlessly and took it all with such good humor.
Hence the
All
name
in.
Flash.
Yeah, that's how I got the name Flash. So it would be across, occasional fall, and the goggles would come off and the powder would come up. When our mother Dottie passed away at a young age, it was Uncle Wilbur and Aunt Pat who stepped in to help all of us beyond measure. I can say without a doubt they were my saving grace, and I am sure my siblings would say the same. When we think of Uncle Wilbur, we think of his big smile, his hysterical storytelling abilities, his brilliance, wisdom, sense of wonder, deep faith, willingness to help out beyond the call of duty, and of course his deep love of his own family, whom he so often talked about. He was so very proud of all of you. He was our family doctor from afar. Whenever anybody was ill, it was call Uncle Flash, call Flash, call Flash. He was a friend, a confidant, and a gift beyond measure. Flash was one of a kind. All of us here today, and family unable to attend, are, as my own dad would say, the lucky ones. Because for the rest of our lives, we will carry in our hearts and draw on all our wonderful memories and experiences with him. Uncle Wilbur was a gift to all of us.
In lieu of
Stand right here and be sure that I have to go.
y'all wonder why I went to college 2,500 miles away.
Love you, Mama.
You have to talk really loud.
Right. Why y'all coming all the way out here? I don't know. I got the verse on my phone. Mom was in lieu of a minister, she found a lawyer, so I'll do my best. When I came out here to start school and go to Furman, and of course reconnected with all of y'all, which was so important to me, Flash started saying this line to me, and he would, as you know, repeated things, and he would repeat it just about every time I saw him, whether it was starting at school, graduating, starting law school, starting my career. He would always say, listen, there are 5 S's in success in life. 5 S's, and no matter what you do, there are 5 S's in success, and you need to remember them, commit them to memory, follow them, and they are as follows. 1, show up early. So we're here. Stay late. We'll all adjourn and stay as long as we want. Look sharp. Y'all look good. Smile. And he could smile. And then the last thing he'd say is, shut up. He said, now if you'll do those 5 things, it doesn't matter. You do them at work, you do them at school. If you'll do those 5 things, then you'll go far in life. And so the only thing I don't think we're going to do today, as he would say, is shut your mouth. We're going to talk and share today, so we'll live up to the other 4. There's a verse that I'm going to share with you. It's in Timothy. It's one of my favorite verses. It comes at the end of Paul's life. Paul has made his 3rd missionary journey, and as those of you that have studied, he's been imprisoned in Rome. He's near the end of his life, and Timothy is his disciple, the person that he is handing off his ministry to. And that's really what life is. Life is the process of raising those and then handing off to those behind you. And that's really what Flash did so well for all of us over our lives, is every single person he touched, he enriched, he bettered, he invested in. And the verse I'll read for you, it comes out of the second book of second letter to Timothy. It's verse 6, chapter 4, verse 6. And it says, for I am already being poured out like a drink offering, and the time for my departure is near. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith, and now there is in store for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord has promised. And as you read that and think about what that means, the phrase I like, the poetic phrase in there that I like is, and it appears nowhere else in the Bible, it's not tying to an Old Testament rite. It poured out like a drink offering. There was no drink offering in the Levitical and Deuteronomical practices. There were all the manner of burnt offerings and other offerings, but there were no drink offerings. So what does it mean? What was the reference there? What is Paul trying to say to us? To be poured out, why should we live our lives to be poured out like a drink offering? And what it refers to, of course, is the sacrament, the covenant, the cup of Christ. But what it means is to take what you are given, the very lifeblood that you have, all that you've received, and pour it into other people. And think of that water analogy, a cup of water being emptied into another vessel. And that's what Flash meant to all of us. Every single person he met, he poured himself into. He couldn't help it. No matter what it was that you did or you were doing, he was immediately interested in. And he wanted to know everything about it because he truly cared. Whether it was a hospital, whether it was music, whether it was law, whether it was the mills, whatever it was, he truly invested in learning that, in wanting to know about it, so that he could become somebody who could enrich you through his giving in his life. And that's what his whole life was dedicated to, was truly finding ways to pour himself into other people with all that he had. The amazing thing is, the beautiful thing is in life is, if you pour yourself into other people, your internal well never runs dry. If we spend our lives trying to hold in for ourselves, then we drown in our own. But if we will continue to live like he did, follow his example and pour ourselves into other people, our own internal well will just regenerate more water that we can then pour into more people, and that generational giving. And that's really what he taught, and that's what this family, all of this family is. It is one giant wellspring that has just poured into generations and generations, and I see future generations and great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren, and everybody benefits from that love, from that giving, and that wonderful spirit that all of you, not just he shared, but all of you share, and the way in which you have poured yourselves out, and the way that he poured himself into us. For those of you that know, obviously was hugely impactful to me, bringing me here, bringing me back here, and helping me along the way. Doing that road trip, we drove from Washington, D.C. to Atlanta, Georgia, stopping at every college along the way and every Civil War. I want you to think about how much of the Civil War between Atlanta and Virginia occurred. Every monument, every marker, every one, we stopped and read it, took a picture. But looking back and being able to relive that and share that, and then of course the opportunity I had to take him back to France and to reconnect. And what was so unique about that trip is that we had a historian on that trip. I'll share this just very briefly and then I'll wrap up. We had this historian from North Carolina who was a professor and I'm sure had read a lot about World War II. He was, at the time of the trip, was probably in his mid-50s, so he obviously wasn't alive then. And then we had some gentlemen who were just history buff, just junkies that had gone on these World War II trips, and this was one of the guys' 20-something World War II trip. And so, of course, they were overjoyed at the prospect of having Flash there. And then within a few days, they learned several things about Flash that all of us knew, and that is, one, he's a bit of a runner. And so we would stop, and although you experienced the slow traverse of we would stop in some little French town or little French village, and he's gone. And nobody can find him, and he's wandered off, and he's over reading about some tree. And now we're bombarded with questions for the next bus ride 20 miles to the next place about plane I don't know what a plane tree is. I've never known, but evidently they're in France. And we would get lots of questions about that. The second thing that was so sort of neat to watch is, as you might imagine, the gentleman on the trip with us, every time we got anywhere, wanted to turn and talk to him. And so I started to feel bad for this history guy, because he had these lectures prepared that nobody immediately wanted to listen to. They all wanted to listen to Flash retell it. And for those of you that know and recall and spent time with him, he didn't share. That was an era that he didn't talk about. But to listen to him get to open up about his experiences and what he did and all that he did truly confirms that greatest generation moniker. He did some remarkable things and lived a very remarkable life. And I know all of us are very proud to have an opportunity to have known him and celebrated to him. I'm going to close this. There's another passage that is familiar to us, and I'm going to use it to sort of conclude and close the little homily or whatever this is called. And it's very familiar. It's from John. It's the 14th chapter of John. Now the passage refers to, it's one familiar to you, but it refers to actually a wedding ritual, Jewish tradition with weddings, and that is the bride. Now think about this. The bride and the bridegroom would go home, and the father would actually build a room on the existing house, and they would actually move in with the family. And so they would go from the wedding back to the house, and that's what Christ is using in this passage as an analogy for our future, our moving on, and where we are today, and what he is now experiencing, moving to that second phase of our life and on to eternity. And it's like going home. It's like going from here home, where you're supposed to be. And it's familiar to you. Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would not have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again to receive you to myself, that where I am, you may be also. And that's what today is. He's there. Now, and there's people that have gone before him. There's a thought that I'm going to close with along this passage. The Irish tradition, and this is familiar to this family, as the Irish immigration occurred, they would stand on the docks and they would wave until the boat got out of sight, till the boat dropped off the horizon. They would continue to wave goodbye. And that's what we do here. But what you have to envision, and what they knew is, there was a whole family standing on the docks in the new America. And they knew that boat was coming. And they would start to line up on the docks, waiting for that ship to appear. And then they would start waving it home. And that's what we do today. So while we wave goodbye, there are a host of folks who have now gotten to wave hello. And that's where he is, and we will be also. Just pray with me one second.